laptops and open-plan family living all come to nothing because Craig was too busy building other people's houses. And maybe his heart was never really in it anyway. It was ironic that there was so much building going on all around them. In the past few years, 3 neighbours had sold to developers who'd promptly demolished their houses and stuck up apartment blocks. The feel of the quiet street where everyone once knew each other was changing, and Vanessa wondered who'd succumb next. At least Mrs. Bianchi, next door, who'd been in Australia since 1972 but still had only a rudimentary grasp of English, was clinging on. Daisy nudged Vanessa's leg for a pat, and she reached under the table to scratch her beloved Labradoodle's head. Daisy met her gaze as if to say, "It's okay, we'll get through this together." And Vanessa's eyes misted over. Funny how a dog can do that to you. Through the window she could hear little miners tweeting on telegraph poles, and her heart ached for the smog on their tiny lungs. But the sun was rising over the backyard, and she could spot the first daffodils popping up. So that was something. Vanessa wasn't much of a gardener, but she loved daffodils. But then, who didn't? Spring. New beginnings. She turned back to her laptop. The end. That's how it had felt when Craig left. And now here she was on the brink of 40, which she was contemplating celebrating by sticking her head in a bucket. No, not really. Well, possibly. She regarded her rounded tummy under her dressing gown. At size 12, she was 1 size smaller than the average Australian woman, so how come the clothes she bought were almost always labelled large? It was a conspiracy against womankind, and she knew it, but it still made her feel like an elephant, especially when she compared herself to Natalie, whose tummy was as flat and taut as a drum. Natalie was a fitness junkie, which seemed at odds with being a relationship counsellor, but why should it? Just because she spent all day sitting in a chair listening to people complain and cry, it didn't mean she was sedentary by nature. Far from it. Sitting was just what Natalie did when she wasn't working out, her glossy, dark ponytail swinging from side to side as she attended boot camp in the park each morning, optimizing her own well-being so she could be there completely for her clients. With compassion in her heart and Nikes on her feet, Natalie was Craig's dream girl. And the fact that her eyes were beady and a bit too close together was clearly an irrelevancy to him. Sitting here in front of her laptop, Vanessa couldn't help thinking that Craig and Natalie were living a grand love affair in real life, while she would have to suffice with fiction. She was going to call her novel Lost and Found Heart. It would tell the tale of Georgie Sinclair, a feisty New York cardiac nurse who is assisting in a heart transplant operation when she discovers that the donor heart belongs to her fiancé, who has just been killed in a car crash. Georgie faints in the operating theatre, incurring the wrath of the arrogant but brilliant transplant surgeon, Dr. Magnus Madison. It's the first of many clashes between them, but as the tale unfolds and Georgie's heart heals, she and Magnus surrender to their sexual chemistry and fall deeply in love. Dr. Magnus Madison is an alpha male who intuits Georgie's emotional needs and will never fall out of love with her. But how do you fall out of love anyway? Oops, I fell. Like love was a hammock. Vanessa thought that falling out of love was just an excuse for people who'd stopped trying. But Magnus would never stop trying. Not that he'd need to try, because he and Georgie were perfect for one another. Vanessa was suddenly gripped by panic. She was a dental assistant, for goodness sake. For 23 years she'd been sterilizing orthodontic pliers and ingesting humanity's fetid breath. That might qualify her to scribble a handbook on flossing etiquette. But a romance novel? Who was she kidding?